Good morning to all of you. Welcome to the program agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, welcoming you on the 6th of September. It's a Tuesday morning and it remains to be sunny out there. So if you have plans of going out, just be prepared for what will probably be a warm day, not to mention something that will be marked by heavy traffic, because according to some of the motorists I've had the chance to speak with, Tuesdays in Metro Manila can be hell. Although some people say it is hell every day as far as rush hour is concerned. Anyway, welcome to the program. Thank you to those of you who are subscribers of Cignal TV and viewers of One News PH here on channels 8 or 250. Thank you also for those of you who watch us via facebook.com/onenewsph. And of course, those of you who try to catch us on YouTube whenever you want to watch replays or are somewhere where you don't have signal because you are in another country. Okay. Thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Let's get started with our daily starter for the day. And this is going to be a bit strange for those of you who are familiar with the person I am quoting from, but there is a reason. Our quote comes from a Korean artist, Yoo Jun Yoon or Un. Yoo Ju-un. And she goes, "I lived with unforgettable memories until the end. So I think I've lived a successful life." Now, if you notice the tense, etc., and what I mentioned, lived. She lived because Yoo Ju-un is a Korean artist who recently passed away. She, I believe, was suffering from mental illness and decided that her time was up and took the exit door. But her last words, that was part of her letter to her family, where she said, "I lived with unforgettable memories." And I share this with you because for two reasons. Some will say, sayang, why did she have to go so young? Why did she have to commit suicide, etc.? But the irony is she lived with beautiful memories. Now, there are people I know who don't have many memories or much less beautiful memories to talk about. And I just want to encourage all of you out there, please, however simple, however plain your life may be, however little your money may be, it's not about that. It's about creating wonderful memories or beautiful memories, and that can be done. Some people say, well, you need people to have beautiful memories. No, just looking at the sunset can give you a beautiful memory. Looking at the sunrise, listening to birds, and just appreciating what is around you can be a catalyst of beautiful memories. And that is how life should be lived. It should be lived creating beautiful memories that when you pass on to other people become your legacy and their memory of you. So I just want to share that as our daily starter. And also as a reminder, if some of you may be struggling with great difficulty, don't be ashamed, don't be afraid. Talk to someone. You can even reach out to us because mental health, stress, I've been through that. I've never been afraid or ashamed to say that at one or two times in my life, I've considered the exit door. And by God's grace, by the word of God, I managed to get through the darkest night and I survived. And now I'm busy creating beautiful memories. So please call a friend. Don't give up. Don't run out. Never, ever take the exit door unless it's really your time and the Lord is calling you. Okay? So I don't want to get heavy on all of you, but sometimes it's the heavy stuff that really makes us think. Okay, let's now go to the front page of the Philippine Star for our news. And the headline for today, Philippine-Indonesia Inc. deals on defense economy. As many of you know, President Bongbong Marcos is in Indonesia. He has been there since Sunday, and for the last 2 days, they have been busy with Indonesian President Joko Widodo formalizing deals that have been negotiated through the past few months. And of course, top of the agenda was the defense agreement and economic programs, because the two countries become stronger together than being separate. Okay, now the front page photo, you will see First Lady Lisa Araneta Marcos with Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. and Indonesian President Joko Widodo and First Lady Iriana Widodo at the Presidential Palace in Bogor, Indonesia yesterday. Okay, at the top of the front page, Senate to probe spread of tech scams and spam. If you remember, that was our second topic of interview yesterday, where our guest pointed out that there is a looming crisis of trust on SMS and digital communications in the country. So, Senate will now be investigating, which they always do. The question is, may mangyayari ba? May kakalabasan ba? Yes, they come out with laws. Yes, there are task forces, but no one ever really ends up having to do something about it. Okay, so apparently now the senators are annoyed, irritated, because pati sila, including them, have become victims of spam, scams, and annoying unsolicited text messages, which the highlight of which is it's becoming more personalized. Apparently, the senators were shocked to see text messages that actually put their name, their faces, profile accounts, etc. So kung hindi ka pa tinamaan, hindi ka pa gagalaw. Okay, nearly 50,000 Pinoy kids caught COVID in the last 18 months of the COVID pandemic, and 1,342 of them died, according to the Children's Council for the Welfare of Children. Okay, so unfortunately, that is the reality. But for those of you who have not fallen ill, been victim to this, please magpabakuna na po kayo, mag-ingat po kayo, because it is no laughing matter. It's tough enough trying to earn a living. It's even tougher to stay alive in the midst of all of these diseases. So please, take the shot if you need the shot. Show no mercy to criminals and terrorists. Vice President Sara Duterte met with stakeholders in the security cluster, National Security, PNP, Bureau of Fire, etc., and reiterated the government's plans and determination to fight criminals and terrorists. And she is quoted saying, pushing for no mercy policy against criminals and terrorists. Sabi nga nila, the fruit does not fall far from the tree. Okay. Unfortunately, peso sinks further, closes at record low 56.99, almost 57 versus the dollar. Okay, now for those of you who are going to say, wow, there's not our economy is dying, blah, 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 the peso is sinking. No. the dollar is improving because of interest rates, because of trading, etc. In other words, the other team is playing very well, so their value and their score is going up. Okay, not necessarily that we're going down, they're going up, but of course we're not going anywhere. So sorry. Okay, and let's now go to the bottom of the front page. Here are the interesting stories. For those of you who keep saying there is no justice in the Philippines, for those of you who are thinking about committing crime as a shortcut to getting rich, ex-NABCOR executive gets 40 years, 40-year jail term over PDAF, okay? An executive of the, the National Agribusiness Corporation has been sentenced to up to 40 years, okay, of imprisonment in connection with the misuse of 4.85 million pesos in priority development assistance. Along with her, a couple of people were also found guilty and will be serving 10 years, okay, and etc., etc. Allow me to point out, 4.85 million laang yan. Only, okay? And for that, they go to jail for 40 years. If you simply worked hard and saved money, you could have had more than 4.85 million in 40 years and stayed free. No record, no suffering, no punishment. So for those of you in government who are trying to think of shortcut, all it takes is one mistake, one expose, and you go to jail. Whether it's 10 or 40, it's the same. Imagine in that time, you could have earned the same amount of money with integrity, dignity, and freedom. Okay. Meanwhile, we have a story from the Department of Health. Soon, darating ang panahon. Sa malapit na panahon, COVID jobs will no longer be free. According to the Department of Health, there is a probability that in the future, you won't get your vaccines for free anymore. In other words, you or someone will have to pay for it. Unfortunately, that was what should have happened from the very beginning, as pointed out to me by one of the consultants of one of the cabinet members, who said, why should the government have to pay for COVID vaccines when, in fact, the private sector, go ask Joey Concepcion, were offering to pay for the vaccines 1 year ago? Okay, that is the how many trillion peso question. Okay, so that is what we should be investigating, and not a more than the 4.5 million malversation case. Okay, over 250,000 students get cash aid, okay, for those in crisis from the DSWD. Poblacion girl, that girl who came from the United States, belongs to an upper class family in Makati, I believe, or wherever here in Metro Manila, who escaped her quarantine in Makati and went to a party in the Poblacion party district, has pleaded guilty and was fined 20,000. Sige na. You know my sentiments. 20,000, ha? Ilan na nagkasakit doon? Ilan na na-perwisyo? How much of government funds, personnel, okay, was consumed finding her, attending to this case, etc. 20,000 peso fine. Baka dapat dyan multahan yung nagmulta. Anyway, okay. Last but not the least, here we go. The Metrobank Foundation conferred yesterday the 2022 Outstanding Filipino Awards on 4 teachers, 3 soldiers, and 3, ano ba ito? 3 soldiers, 3 police officers serving above and beyond their call of duty as educators, peacekeepers, and defenders. Okay, so that's it. That's all the news we have on the front page of the Philippine Star. And today, I don't know, Gab, are we going to go for a break? If not, I am going to go directly to our interview because medyo very interesting ang ating interview. If you read the Bible, the book of Genesis, it is evident that light, liwanag, ilaw, is very important. So important that I believe it was the first act of God. Let there be light. And he said, it was good. Okay? So why is Cito Beltran talking this way? Well, simple, because our topic today has to do about lights. Lighting design, lighting artifacts ba tawag doon, etc. Because many Filipinos, we take this for granted. We put very little value to lights. But you know, without the lights, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have about 20 lights on right now, just so that I would be seen clearly on cam. And without lights, you won't see this effect, okay? It will be very dark, very shadowy, very blurred. Now, in our homes, we put so much furniture. We, depending, even the simplest people, bibili ng mala IKEA. Diba? Mala IKEA ang furniture. And in the big houses, they put up beautiful furniture, but light is always an afterthought. Light is more like a fixture than a necessity to complete the ambience. But anyway, recently someone posted on Facebook, my friend Mike Mina, he posted a project they had, Milade Jewels, with a company. And I said, wow, they've got some really beautiful pieces. I mean, it's not just a lampshade. It's not just a lampstand. It's not just a overhead. Talaga, work of art. So anyway, let's get to know more about our guest for today here on Agenda.
Cris Venzon is the owner and founder of the Venzon Lighting Manufacturing. He described his firm as the renaissance of his 30-year lighting experience in the Philippines and other countries, having worked in various lighting companies such as Target Lighting in China and Calco Lighting in Las Vegas, USA.
Cris, good morning to you. Welcome to the program Agenda.
Good morning, Cito. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, let's get on with the program. And I just mentioned that I discovered your works, your company, through Mike Mina's Facebook post where he featured a joint project between Venzon Lighting and Milade Jewels. Now, could you tell us a little about yourself? Because the family name Venzon is not so common.
Well, Venzon is actually, we're originally from Pampanga. Pampanga, and I believe that some of our relatives are also from Arayat and Tarlac. But other than that, I don't really know much about the history of our last name. With this particular cooperation with Mike Mina, with Milady. We've started this several years ago with all of their most of their stores, their jewelry stores. So it's not only the one that you saw on Facebook where we did a collaboration on their lights, but most of their jewelry stores have our lights featured in them, which we are very grateful.
Okay, well, you mentioned that you're from the province of Pampanga, and two things I do know about Pampanga. The good things I know about Kapampangans is that you folks have some of the most delicious foods in the world, and I dare say in the world. But you are also well known as artisans. Some of our biggest, for previously, at least in the past, because my wife was in the furniture export business. I mean, she was like a buyer for some companies abroad. And when it came to furniture, Pampanga was the first go-to place, followed by Cebu. Now, you're also known as artisans for wood, even for paroles, okay? Now, but lights, never really knew much about the craft of lighting in Pampanga.
It all happened by accident. I was actually in the United States in the late 80s. And that was, as I heard from many of my friends here in the Philippines, as I heard back then, that was the biggest boom in furniture, where a lot of the Kapampangans actually made it big in the furniture industry, because we were so much in demand. Back then, I was in the United States, and when my partner in there asked me, what are we going to do? We need to move our source from Taiwan to China. Should we do it? And I told him, let's go to the Philippines and let's check the Philippines. Let's check the Philippines first. So that was how we started the lighting industry in our hometown in Pampanga. That was late 80s, during the boom of the furniture industry. And we never stopped then. After we sold that company, we started our own business with my three brothers. We started another lighting company, which after several years was bought by our client from New York, from the United States. And this Venzon Lighting Manufacturing, this is my third company, basically. And we decided to keep it small so we can cater domestically to the creatives, so that we can collaborate with them. Our strength is in manufacturing and engineering. So basically, that's what we offer, together with our own designs, that we also have our own designs, in-house designs. But for the most part, these aspiring designers or the established designers would come to us with their own ideas, and together we would come up with the final product. And happy to say that for the most part, we haven't had any problems, any complaints with our clients.
Okay, what attracted you to get into lighting and what is, first of all, can you educate me, Cris? What is the correct term? Because I always keep saying lighting fixtures, lamps, etc. But there must be a more proper. Must be a proper term for all of this.
This is what we call the decorative lighting fixtures. This is separate from your architectural lights, where they're basically invisible, like the canned lights. That it just shows you the light. It just provides you the light, but you don't look at the fixture itself as part of the decor. Okay? So when I say decorative lighting fixtures, in the old days, you would see a lot of crystal chandeliers.
Okay,
that would be a centerpiece of a house. Excuse me one. But nowadays, it's more like with the younger designers, with the modern design, the creativity of the people it's different. It's different. You won't see a lot of crystal chandeliers in modern homes right now. And
What brought that about, Chris? Because I mean, aside from being dust collectors and a serious pain in the behind to clean, plus if somebody breaks one piece, they are in deep caca. I mean, you gotta, what convinced people to go away from chandeliers? Because every time I see a very old glass piece or part of a lighting, decorative lighting fixture, as you call it, I buy them, I hide them, and I say I'm going to do something about it, but never do. And then when I go out to all the stores, everything is metal, everything is plastic, and I'm going, what happened?
Well, when we came back to the Philippines, my wife and I were discussing it. What are we going to do differently? We could do it like the Chinese does it, where we do, it's like the same things that everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
So we came up with the idea of designing or coming up with a Philippine modern, as we call it, Philippine modern design. And we call it, when the Philippine aspect of it, we try to incorporate a lot of our natural materials, like kapis is a predominant material that we use a lot. And then on the modern side, coming back from the United States and from China, I've learned a few tricks in manufacturing here and there. So we decided to incorporate technology into our manufacturing process. So with that, we were able to offer something different to the creative industry. You mentioned, interestingly, that it's a dust collector. That's one of the concerns that our clients would voice out when we show them the kapis. Right? It's like, how do you clean that? So nowadays, it's like you no longer have to rely on feather dusters. At least you can have your vacuum. You could have you could reverse it to blow out the dust from the kapis, and then they would say, but the kapis is so fragile, it's going to break. How do we replace it? So we came up with a way. We engineered the attachment of the kapis to the aluminum branches with a clip. That was our own invention. So with the clip, even the homeowner can actually replace a kapis that breaks from their chandelier.
So it's not something that, okay, you broke a branch or our baby just crashed half the lamp, so just throw it out. You can actually replace it.
Yes. The whole idea is to make it last forever, for that matter.
Okay, now I think I won't go into too much of the manufacturing details, although I saw that you had a laser cutter. Was that a laser cutter that you showed on the video? And do you also use 3D printing for coming up with designs and projects?
It's similar to a laser cutter, but it's called a plasma. It's one notch below a laser cutter that we use to cut metal, and we also have a CNC router which we use to cut wood. The 3D printing that we use is basically just for components. It's very difficult to find operators or CAD operators that can do 3D. So we're not there yet. Although we do use our 3D printers to come up with the components for some of our pieces.
Okay, because some people will be saying, "Oh, the Philippines is so backward. Everything is manual labor." Well, I beg to disagree, because last night, my first time going back to the studio, I noticed there were no people inside the studio except for maybe one or two. And I say, what's going on here? Oh, sir, we don't use cameramen anymore. I mean, huh? What? What do you mean? Sir, everything is robotic already. I mean, literally, I was looking at three robots, cameras that were being operated with a joystick in the control room. And then now you have a plasma cutter cutting the designs of your products. Now, what advantage does that give you? Is it just cutting on labor cost, or is it speed, whatever?
The biggest advantage is the repetitive capability to cut a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there are some labor savings. There's also the speed advantage, but we are using it primarily to come up with the capability to cut intricate designs.
Mm-hmm.
That if you do it manually, it's either going to take you forever, or it's an impossibility, or you cannot repeat it.
Okay,
that's where we're using it.
You use the word repetitive. Does that mean that every product that you design or every line has to be multiplied into dozens or hundreds, etc.? Because, I got the impression that you were kind of high-end, a bit exclusive in your design. And, the last thing someone wants is, oh, I have exactly the same lamp in my house.
That's an interesting point. You mentioned earlier that some people are saying that the Philippines is backward in terms of technology.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about that, we are not backwards. We just don't use it to produce mass production pieces. If we want, we can continue to repeat the same pattern over and over again. But the idea that we have this CNC equipment, it does not necessarily mean that we're using them for mass production. If you want a certain exclusive design for you, we can commit it to paper first before we actually cut it until we are both satisfied. This is how we want to look. This is how we want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the prototyping process is very quick. If we have to change something, okay, let's tweak it a little bit. You tweak the design, and then it's really the speed of producing something that gives us that advantage. But it's not going to operate itself. We still have to have the designers. We still have to have the CAD operators to do that. I think the focus is more on the designing process on paper than on the actual manufacturing of the piece, because that's what we want the designers to at least not worry about. We want to take that away from them.
So in effect, technology, robotics, CAD, plasma cutters gives you precision, gives you precise repetition. And but at the end of the day, it's not cheaper because you still have to pay for the technology, you have to maintain the technology, and you have to hire people who are actually on the next level up instead of having manual laborers, which of course we all want to preserve jobs, but people who go up to using technology, CAD operators, computer-assisted design are more expensive. You have to pay them more, and computer operators require higher salaries. So it doesn't get cheaper. Anyway, let's go for a quick break, Cris. And when we come back, I'd like to link consumer with creator, you being the creator. What should the consumer have in mind? Because my opening line earlier was that many people spend so much on curtains, on furniture, etc. And when it comes to lights, oh my God, please, whatever you do, never come to my house because you will faint when you see the house. You ask, is this a bodega, studio, or a house? Anyway, we'll go for a quick break. We'll be right back here on Agenda.
Thanks.
Welcome back to the program Agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran. You might say a lampshade is a lampshade is a lampshade, but I think our guest, Cris Venzon, would disagree. Cris, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
Cris, you and your wife, Jackie, have been in this business combined 30 years together. Why lighting? There are many other fields. Because I learned that you are an accounting by education. How did you end up doing lights, and how did you hook up with your wife, Jackie?
In 1984, when I went to the United States, my first job was as a bookkeeper for this. Actually, it's a fan company, ceiling fan company.
Mm-hmm.
But my inclination was more into the manufacturing, into the mechanical. Growing up with a father that was a mechanic, so I was good with my hands.
Mm-hmm.
So in addition to the bookkeeping job and everything else that I did in the office, my fascination with the actual assembly and manufacturing process led me to the factory side. That's how I got involved with the lighting industry. My boss back then, who eventually became my partner, was very supportive of what I was able to offer to the company. And as I mentioned earlier into the program, when everybody were moving their source from Taiwan to mainland China, we decided to move our source into the Philippines. So that's when we started our own factory in Clark. That's how we started into the lighting industry. So with that story, since I moved to the United States in the 80s, I was involved in lighting, and I never stopped. and I never stopped. And this is my third company.
But it wasn't your natural inclination. I mean, you weren't, you weren't mesmerized by lights, by chandeliers, or anything of that sort. I mean, I like nice lighting designs. I appreciate, when I go to hotels, I go to museums. It's like, wow, that's a nice piece, etc. Your father was a mechanic, so one would assume you were more interested in cars.
Well, the first part of your statement is correct. I was not really. I was. It was not my. It was not my. It was not in my radar actually looking at lighting designs and saying that okay, that's what I'm going to be doing. It was mostly by accident.
Okay.
It was fate actually that I met this guy that was in the fan business, and with the fan business, if you remember the old ceiling fans, there is a light, what we call a light kit underneath it.
Yeah.
That was how we evolved from selling ceiling fans into lights. So even my partner, it was also an evolution. It was not by design that we became lighting specialists.
Yeah, well, you can only do so much with a ceiling fan.
Exactly.
So anyway, so how did you get to meet Jackie?
Jackie, I met in the United States in Las Vegas actually when we moved that company from California to Las Vegas. She was studying in UNLV, and when I met her, it's like we fell in love, and we got married.
Okay, but what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. How did you convince her to come back and come to the Philippines?
That's about love, Cito.
Well, you're a kindred spirit because I too went to the United States in '84, but I came back in '86. And unlike you, I ended up in building resorts. So I was more in the construction. But anyway, going back to our topic, please help our viewers out, help us out. What are the first things we should always bear in mind regarding our homes, regarding lighting in our homes, in our bedrooms, in our offices? Because I confess that in the Philippines, hey, you stick a bulb, an LED bulb in the ceiling, it's lighting. And it's like, can't we do something about this? What should people think when they think lighting?
So first of all, I'd like to address something that you mentioned, that we are expensive. Admittedly, we are more expensive than a lot of the Chinese lights that you would find in Manila. Okay, but if you consider that we are manufacturers, you're buying directly from a manufacturer, and you can have it customized to your own design. We are very inexpensive. You were in the States comparing the prices from the States, comparing the imported items from Europe or European design. We are definitely much more affordable than that. And addressing your question as far as what a homeowner would be considering when it comes to lights, I think the first thing that they need to realize is they spend so much time on the floor and on the walls. They think very carefully what kind of furniture I would put in there, what kind of decorations should I put, what kind of wall art should I put in there,
or what kind of tiles.
Exactly, the floor itself. And then you look at their ceiling; it's so bare. It's like it's actually very encouraging. It's very exciting to note that a lot of the young designers now are putting the lighting fixtures into their own designs. Because if you look at the house, the first thing that you would notice is a beautiful light fixture. It's like that actually adds so much impact with how the overall house looks like. Because if you look at beautiful furniture, beautiful wall art, and then a plain white ceiling without anything, with just LED bulbs, it really does it this service, the design itself.
Mhm.
You have to think about something to put on the ceiling, because that's part of the decorative space that a lot of the young designers now are being exposed to. And I shouldn't say young designers, because we do work with a lot of the established designers that really knows what they want to put in their own work.
Okay, I remember my first hint of craftsmanship that was light related from the province of Pampanga were the Calesa lights. I remember people making the Calesa lamp out of brass or metal and putting glass and having a wooden base to it and putting it at the entrance of their homes, etc. Are there cultural or historical inspirations in your current work, or is it all bespoke?
Presently, it's all bespoke. It's all bespoke. You mentioned the Calesa lights. Those are very nice pieces. Those are very nice pieces, but it requires a certain craftsmanship.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad to say we are losing right now. A lot of the younger generations don't want to continue the craft that their parents have done in the past. It's not only in metalworking. We are finding that to be a problem in woodworking also. A lot of the carvers in Betis, Pampanga, which is known for the wood carving industry, the older generation who were the artisans, the craftsmen for this wood carving, were not able to transfer that knowledge into the younger generations. That is always the problem.
Was it because they were too protective of their craft, their skill, or their livelihood, that in failing to share, they actually killed their legacy?
I don't believe that is the case, actually. In fact, we have programs. I'm part of a group called PhilExport, Philippine Exporters Foundation.
Yeah.
And one of our biggest initiatives is the transfer of skill. So I don't think that it's being overly protective as much as the demand for the work. There's not a lot of demand in wood carving, except for the super high end or restoration pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's true also with what you mentioned earlier that's probably more into the tin work, the Calesa lamps.
Yeah.
I don't know of anybody in Pampanga that does that. I would love to be able to do that in my own shop, but it's very difficult.
Cris, I bet you if you put out the word there, I bet you will still find one or two old soul that's like, hitting tin metal and brass and still making little things for themselves because no one remembers them. But I'm sure if you put the word out through the governor of Pampanga and the congressman, especially if you put a reward, I'm sure you'll find one. But anyway, before I get carried away with all these stories. So you pointed out the fact that many Filipinos, they spend a fortune on imported tiles, fake wood tiles. They spend a fortune on sofas, tables, etc. But they forget the ceiling, and so they should consider getting the right light. Now, the problem I think is people think it's a science. People think that there's magic into, determining the right light fixture. Because like in my home, I love bright lights. And my daughter and my wife is from the Netherlands, And our daughter is very light sensitive. Parang imported yung mata eh. Okay, the northern lights, as they say. But how do you balance that? How do you work out the intensity of luminance, of lighting, etc., and design?
When it comes to lights, there's we are more concerned about the temperature.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? In a bedroom setting, usually what you don't want super bright light because it's going to keep you up. That is a room where you would want to wind down, get ready for sleeping. So you would want the warm light. It's also nice, according to my wife, according to my daughters, it's also nice to the skin, how your skin looks like in a warm light. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to areas where there's a lot of activity, you want the daylight because you want to be. It has an effect on the body. It can either take you bring you down to sleep, to rest, or it can bring you up into hyperactivity. Okay. And the super white light like they use in hospitals, that's totally different. That's totally different. It's like a lot of offices would use white light because they don't want their employees to be dragging down because the light is too warm.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically that's the only except that we can get into lumens, we can get into intensities, but that should not be the major concern of a homeowner.
So basic, if they go to the store for bulbs, you have daylight, which is the white light, and you have warm light, which is we used to say in our time incandescent light or yellow light. Okay, correct. So yellow light for intimate settings, for restful areas, white light for areas of activity, etc., or traffic. What about kitchen?
Kitchen would be
kitchen dining because sorry, alam mo naman ngayon may dining room na, meron pang kitchen and dining pero mas madalas pa sa kitchen.
The kitchen we would normally recommend daylight because there's a lot of activity in there. In the dining area, you can have daylight and you can have daylight, but we would recommend that you use dimmable settings, dimmable bulbs, so that if you want it to be a little bit more intimate, you could bring down the light.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what's a good budget? What's a decent budget for lighting? Because there are people who are now building their homes, first starter homes, etc., and everybody, it's sad because everybody is like, what's cheap, and then 5 years down the road, as they discovered in Europe, that they had dumps of full of these cheap, useless materials. So, what's a good budget for lighting?
Well, it depends on what you really want. We had projects where we furnished the lights for the whole house, meaning that we had lights for their living room, for their bedrooms, even outdoor lighting, and it's very difficult to pinpoint what would be a budget. But I'll give you an example. If you want one of our cherry blossom pieces, so the capiz, our signature piece, you can have that for about 90,000 pesos.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very nice fixture. It's that's the one that you are looking at in there. And we've sold a lot of those to clients that.
I've seen them in the big hotels.
Yes, and we've also sold a lot of those to homeowners.
Mm-hmm.
To homeowners, because it's like it gives a very the capiz actually adds to the drama of the piece.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It is natural material. So when you think about if there's a move right now for the use of natural materials, that is one light fixture that uses natural material. So it really adds up.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, when you think about it, just I'm not defending Cris or Venzon Lighting. They don't need a lawyer. But, some of you might say, wow, Cito, 90,000, ano ka ba? I just bought a really cheap office chair. Okay, a really cheap office chair. I mean, cheap because of the range of office chairs. And it cost me, I believe, 11,000 pesos. Now, if you go to the Lazy Boy and stuff like that, you are ranging from 58 to 100 plus thousand pesos. So that was it cherry blossom? You said Capiz light.
Yes.
That's for the dining room, isn't it?
Yes.
That floater. Yes. So that becomes the centerpiece of the dining room, because like the minute you open the door to the dining room, however big or small, that's on top of your centered dining table. So it's key to always consider that. What are the failed areas in terms of lighting, Cris? People don't it's like you should always have a lamp there, or you should always like the powder room, for instance. That's the every house, every office, people will go to your toilet.
That's correct. I'm not sure what you mean by what are the failed areas.
No, the people don't give importance to, and they put glass, they put marble, etc., and then they put up a stainless steel whatchamacallit for lighting, and I'm like, who did this? shoot the designer.
I think for the most part, I think the living room is one of the areas that you really have to consider putting a nice light in there. Because in the living room, that's where people relax. That's where you entertain guests. That's the first area, if you have a visitor, that they would notice. Because that's where you're going to welcome them. So you really need to have something in there. You really need to have a decorative light fixture in there. It has to blend. It has to blend with your overall ambience, with the overall feel of the living room. And then secondly, of course, would be the dining area.
Yeah. Now, are you a table lamp kind of guy, or are you a lampstand kind of guy, or are you up in the ceiling sort of person, nothing on the floor?
We do a lot of light fixture. When you say the ceiling, or when you say when we talk about the walls, these are the light fixtures, that what we call the light fixtures, because you have to permanently mount them. And then the table and the floor lamps would be the portable light. We have those also, but the price of those has gone down. Our friends from China has really destroyed the price points on those items, wherein we could not, even our cost is higher than their selling price.
Wow.
So we do have those for the discerning clientele that want some exclusivity. We can make those, but that's not our biggest. That's not our biggest category.
Okay, so the rule is, if you like it, if you love it, if you think it will give you pleasure, then you will pay the price, because anything can be as cheap as dirt. If you don't want dirt in your nails, you will never take it. Okay. Anyway, Cris Venzon, thank you very much for your gems, for sharing with us what Venzon's Lighting can do for your clients. And we do hope that your future projects take off. And more importantly, the Filipinos recognize that they don't have to look for something abroad. It's all here, and it's made by Filipinos. Thank you very much, Cris.
Thank you, Cito. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, God bless you. Okay, that's Cris Venzon. And now for our blessing for the week, I bring you to to the book of First Chronicles chapter 4, okay, verses 9 to 10. Jabez was more honorable than his brothers. His mother named him Jabez and said, I gave birth to him in pain. Jabez called out to the God of Israel and prayed, if only you would bless me, extend my border, let your hand be with me and keep me from harm, so that I will not cause any pain. And God granted this request. I pray that your prayers will be granted by the Lord. I pray that you will be blessed by the Lord and that you will not cause other people pain. God bless you. Have a great day. Please keep on watching Agenda and keep it here on One News PH.